I'm damn shell shocked. All right, let's get into Redeem Coomer's video here, and we're going to speed him up a little bit. 10 reasons he's not Orthodox.
I'm Redeem Zoomer.
I might just skip to each of the reasons because this is like a 40-minute video. I'm not watching this whole video. We'll skip through each of these. Let's see what he says.
And today we're talking about 10 reasons why I'm not Eastern Orthodox. I've made similar videos like this a few years ago, but as many people let me know, those videos were not very well thought out, because that was before I'd read any of the church fathers or any distinctively Eastern Orthodox theologians like Vladimir Lossky or Michael Palmer.
Okay, so now he's read a couple church fathers and a couple Orthodox theologians, so now it's all going to be more thought out. And again, we saw from the previous video against me that it was, it was system building. He's going to come up with a way to make it all work. The whole point of what we argue against these people is we don't need you inventing the wheel every generation, right? If Protestantism and Calvinism are true and the Reformation theology is true, guess what? Every generation has the burden of reinventing the wheel. They're going to have to go back and see, did the Bible actually teach the Trinity? Did the church fathers actually teach baptismal regeneration? On and on and on. So the wheel has to be completely reinvented, completely redone every generation. So the very act of having to system build is itself an argument against Protestantism.
And as a result, my reasons were kind of simplistic, so I thought I should revisit this issue after doing the reading, especially because I've been making a lot of videos about Roman Catholicism, like 67 Reasons I'm Not Catholic, or all the Catholic contradictions, and many of you guys were requesting similar videos for Orthodoxy. Now, my reasons for not being Orthodox are very different than my reasons for not being Catholic. I don't think there are infallible or dogmatic contradictions in Orthodoxy the same way there are in Catholicism, but I still think there are inconsistencies and theological issues, so we'll be talking about that. But first, only a small percentage of people who watch my videos are actually subscribed, so if you like what you see and you want to see more, consider subscribing. It's free and you can always change your mind. If you like the video, make sure to click the like button, and if you didn't like the video, make sure to click the dislike button twice. So now let's get into it. The first reason I'm not convinced by Eastern Orthodoxy is what I would call the filioque conundrum. The filioque is the belief that the Holy Spirit personally proceeds from the Father and the Son, or filioque in Latin, instead of just from the Father. So the West, meaning Catholics and Protestants, teaches the filioque, the East does not. So who's right? Now that's not a debate I can solve in this video. That debate's been going on for over 1,000 years. There's 3-hour debates between like Christian Wagner and David Erhan that you can watch on YouTube. Maybe in the future I'll do a video where I actually try and argue for the filioque, but this video is about whether or not the filioque is a heresy. Not every error is a heresy. You could be wrong about the age of the earth without being a heretic. A heresy is not just an error. It's an error that is so bad it destroys the fundamentals of the Christian faith and makes one not a Christian. Heresy is a very serious accusation. And the Eastern Orthodox Church teaches that the filioque is a demonic Trinitarian heresy. That's what St. Gregory Palamas taught. He's the greatest post-schism saint for Eastern Orthodoxy, and his views were codified at the Council of Blackrenay, which is binding on all Orthodox Christians. And the identity of the Orthodox Church is being the church that is free from heresy. The word Orthodox means right belief, contrasted with heterodox, taught heresy for 500 years. And that fundamentally contradicts the identity of what the Orthodox Church is supposed to be. If the Orthodox Church, if their largest jurisdiction taught a Trinitarian heresy for 500 years and nobody in that jurisdiction did anything about it, and there wasn't a formal break in...
Yeah, this is not true. You can read Szyszynski's treatment of the West from 500 to 1,000, and they are not clearly teaching the double hypostatic procession. So this becomes codified in 1274 at Lyons, and then in a couple centuries later at the Council of Florence. So this is a basic mistake early on that the Latin Church from 500 to 1,000 explicitly clearly taught the filioque. This is within the time frame when, for example, St. Maximus says perhaps they mean economia, so let's grant them the benefit of the doubt. So it is a time period where it is unclear exactly what the Latin West means, and that's exactly what Szyszynski himself says in his scholarly treatment of the history of the filioque doctrine. So that is simply not true. And no, we don't, for example, anathematize every theological error even until there's specifically the potentiality of that error affecting the church at a large scale, or the church father or the person or the patristic writer in question obstinately rejects the rest of the church. So, for example, Augustine is not a heretic because he said in On the Trinity, I give this book to the universal church, not to Rome, by the way, to judge whether or not what I say is correct. And if there's anything wrong in it, I submit to the judgment of the church. That's the attitude of a saint. Origen, on the other hand, did not listen to the rest of the church and the synods and the bishops, and continued on in his Neoplatonic heresies, which denied many fundamental teachings of the Orthodox Catholic Church of that time, and thus he was condemned even in his own day and in multiple ecumenical councils. So the difference between a heretic who's obstinate and a person who made theological error is simply obstinacy and continuing in that error to death, right? Tertullian began good, but he left the church and ended in heresy, so he's a heretic.
So the East did not become separate officially from the West until over 600 years after Augustine first started teaching the Filioque. The West is the Patriarchate of Rome, which is what the Eastern Orthodox...
Well, that's an arbitrary standard that somehow we're supposed to submit to his idea of when there should have been a excommunication and a rejection. And he doesn't know this controversy that well. He has not read Sashensky on it. If he did, he would know that it's more complex than just saying, why didn't the East just immediately cut off the entire West? Well, again, it was, if you read the letter to Marinus by St. Maximus, he says it's not clear exactly what they mean or what they're teaching. Thus, it's not dogmatized until 1274 at the Latin Council of Lyons. All right, let's move on to the next one. Icons.
Believe the honor given to the image passes to the prototype. That's what St. Basil says, and in context, he was not talking about icons. He was talking about the relation of the Son to the Father, but they believe that logic applies. They think icons are windows into heaven. It's a very big deal for them. One of their infallible ecumenical councils is Nicaea II, which claims infallibly that icon veneration is an unbroken tradition of the apostles, which means, if orthodoxy is correct, icon veneration has always been practiced in the Christian churches. Here's the problem. All the best historical evidence completely contradicts that. Before 325 AD, before Constantine, before there was this massive...
You notice he immediately skipped every biblical Old Testament example. This is what they always do. So I'm not going to refute and rehearse the entire arguments for icons, but Orthodox Shahada made a documentary illustrating probably, I think, the strongest refutation of the iconoclasts.
You let him deny.
And the reason this is so good is that this refutes the Protestants from the Bible. So if you can demonstrate that the iconographic tradition is actually rooted in the Old Testament temple liturgy, then all of these other dumb arguments about, well, I don't see a clear representation in the year 300. Well, I've been to the catacombs, and the catacombs in Rome have clear iconographic representations from the third, fourth, fifth century. Okay, so then that refutes the idea that they didn't exist historically. Now, you can go to in the catacombs and you can see altars, and they have pictorial imagery of Christ. Very early. Okay. So if the roots of iconography are Hebraic, that immediately undercuts this low-tier argumentation that I don't see a patristic specific citation in the first 3 centuries.
This Protestant liturgist.
Well, how about if I go to Protestant scholars who admit that there are those things early on? And that's why I made this brief 20-minute video here refuting Gavin Ortlund on icons. And I'm just arguing from the first chapter or second chapter of Hugh Wybrew's book, who's an Anglican liturgical scholar, called The Byzantine Liturgy. And here's that 20-minute video. So that should be an easy refutation of this low-tier argument. So this guy is like 10 years behind everyone else. And then he reads a few books and in 3 years comes back with being 7 years behind everyone else. Okay, let's see the next line of argument here.
Well, brother, we know where the church is, not where the church isn't. If you read the Orthodox rudder, they very clearly know where the church isn't. And even if there can be some grace in other communions, it's not real Christianity in the West. Everything after the Great Schism, meaning Catholicism and Protestantism, is not real Christianity according to Eastern Orthodoxy. Here's the problem. A major reason why I am Christian, a major reason why many people are Christian, is seeing the impacts that Christianity has in the world. Seeing how Christianity improves lives, improves societies, and transforms society for the better, spreads God's kingdom on earth. The vast majority of the great things Christianity has done for the world has been in Western Christianity. You know, if...
This is a very subjective line of argumentation because it really depends on which position is correct to know through your paradigm what constitutes a better civilization or what constitutes a greater value of, you know, quality of life, right? If we're just measuring it by material success or something like that, well, then atheism might provide a material success because atheistic societies have become very scientifically advanced, right? the modern West is atheistic. It's very scientifically advanced. So does that mean atheism's true? I mean, this is just a silly line of argument. It should be pretty obvious that, it's the same line of argumentation that Roman Catholics do when they say, Rome is a true church because we won and we have numbers, bro. And the papacy's got a lot of money in churches, so we win. This is so stupid. It's the lowest tier of argumentation because they don't even realize Augustine's City of God is written to refute that line of argumentation. Gabriel says for $5, was Origen, yes, he was condemned by even Saint, I always forget the name. It's either Saint Optatus or Saint, Origen was condemned by saints in his own day. And yes, he died outside of communion. He's a heretic. 40 crust, $2. Did you watch Trevor Moore's Kitty History? I saw a skit going around about circumcision. Is that what you're talking about? I don't know. Octavian, $5. How come you avoid debates with Doug Wilson? I didn't avoid a debate with Doug Wilson. We tried to get him to come to debate on Timcast. What are you talking about? You're a longtime super chatter. You should know that I'm not avoiding debates with people like Doug Wilson. In fact, I just said the other day we can try to set up a debate with Doug Wilson, but he won't. I don't think he'll do it. He didn't do. Now, supposedly he told Tallahassee Patriot he would debate me. And when we did the three-way debate on Timcast, it was supposed to be originally me, Tim Gordon, and Doug Wilson. Now, supposedly Doug Wilson wasn't able to or didn't want to. I don't know if he didn't want to do it, canceled, or couldn't do it, right? Who knows? But no, I'm not opposed to debating Doug Wilson. In fact, he did so bad against Heschmeyer that now I'm like, I smell blood, and I would love to debate Doug Wilson. But I don't appreciate that super chat, Octavian, that I'm avoiding him, but you don't even know. Oh, he's trolling. He's joking. Okay, good. Beatbox. Would you be down to do a Matan interview in the future? Yeah, I texted with Matan when we were in LA and I was about to go on there, but we had to leave a couple days before he could do it. So we talked about doing it in the future. And there's another huge channel that I also have a possibility of going on in LA as well. But I don't know exactly when I'm going to be back in LA. So Octavian gifted 10 memberships. Appreciate that. Celestium, $10. I hope you feel better soon. I don't feel bad. I'm just tired. Like it feels hungover because, I feel hungover because of the drive. Tallahassee, what's up, man? I know that you were originally talking to Doug Wilson.
Yeah, Jay, I just wanted to briefly say, I can confirm that Doug Wilson said to me in person that he's up to debate you. I spoke with him at NatCon, the National Conservatism Conference in D.C., back in September. I basically explained, you help lead a lot of young men to orthodoxy, you've appeared on the Alex Jones show, et cetera, et cetera. And he said he'd be open to debating you in terms of a Protestant versus Orthodox debate. We exchanged email addresses, but then the Charlie Kirk event happened in September, and that totally distracted me.
Okay, but
I followed up with him just recently the other night, and I haven't heard back from him yet.
Okay, well,
I'll follow up once more.
Yeah, feel free to. And also, I thought that initially we thought FDA might do it, and FDA seemed, if I recall, he seemed open to it, and then I don't know what happened with that. But then I thought, well, why don't we just get Doug Wilson into the three-way debate on Timcast? And do you know by chance why that? Did he mention that at any point?
Oh no, I have no idea about that.
Okay, because the Timcast girl was trying to get Doug Wilson, but anyway.
Yeah, that's all. I just want to let you know.
Yeah, appreciate that. Well, let me know what he says if he replies. To be honest with you, though, I don't want to go somewhere and do an in-person debate because we just got back from a 5-week road trip of 20 podcasts. So I'm willing to do something definitely online in the near future. The only reason I'm doing this Nashville debate is because Nashville's not very far from here. I don't really want to drive or fly somewhere to debate Doug Wilson, but we can definitely set something up virtually. David says for $20, if it was up to Jay, all the founding fathers would be Orthodox. They obviously didn't know what they were doing. It's not like they created the best nation on the earth ever seen in history. Dude, are you serious? David, please call in. This is so stupid. I hope you're trolling that if that's like an actual argument that you're making. I mean, Augustine's City of God is written against the idea that you can tell which religion is true based on monetary and civilizational success. I mean, this is such a dumb argument. I mean, by that line of argument, Rome fell because it became Christian, right? That's what the pagans were saying to Augustine. So the entire book, City of God, is written as an apologetic to refute that argument. And these mind-bombed idiot Roman Catholics don't even know that. Like, you're quoting at me that orthodoxy is false because 1453, bro, it fell to, Islam. It's like, dude, it fell when it was a uniate. That refutes you dummy. So Daniel or David, please call in, because I would love to refute this retarded line of argumentation that the founding fathers, I mean, it's just an oversimplification, right? I mean, the founding fathers could be right on certain things and wrong on a lot of other things and create a nation that was very successful. But if you're trying to defend against my point earlier about the founding fathers and their emphasis in regards to Freemasonry, like, oh, I guess Freemasonry is true then, because the church fathers, I mean, the founding fathers were Freemasons in large part, not all of them, but many of them. And the American Enlightenment ethos produced America, so therefore it's true. I mean, it's just so stupid, dude. I mean, do you not understand why that's a bad line of? I think a lot of you guys actually don't understand why that's a bad line of argument. And I was trying to illustrate that with Andrew Meyer by pointing out, like, if you go this line of argument, it seems to lead to bad, illogical conclusions. Pete Hegseth will fly Doug Wilson out. I'm not flying Doug Wilson in my house, dude. I don't really want to be anywhere near Doug Wilson except on the internet, maybe. I don't like Doug Wilson at all. I think he's I don't think he's a good person. Everyone's asking me about this Trump post. What's the Trump post? I don't know. I've been doing this. Let's do this next. Or let's move fast through Redeem Coomer's argument here. Protestant culture. I mean, these arguments are terrible. And what does any of this have to do with proving whether orthodoxy is true or false? Protestant culture? I mean, by this line of argument, I could argue that Protestantism produced atheism, and atheism has destroyed the West. This is so dumb. Cleve, did you want to say something? I saw you for a second, then you fell out. Cleve, you want to come back? Owen, what's up, man?
Hey, Jay. I kind of wanted to go back to geopolitics stuff.
Okay.
I think I mostly agree with you, but I keep encountering people that are I think they're really kind of coping to a certain extent with the stuff that Trump has done. And I heard some people doing that a little bit earlier.
Mm-hmm.
And I hear people I think the cope they're trying to come up with is oh, this is geopolitical positioning for China and stuff is the thing that I've encountered. And
yeah, that's what Andrew was arguing.
Yeah, that's the argument that they're make for it's all global positioning for that. But it's really stupid and myopic to make that argument because if you look at the domestic political consequences from the stuff, and I know this is politics, which is a lower tier than religion and stuff and philosophy, but that's what the arguments are on. It's stupid because the domestic consequences for these actions are going to be that the Democrats are going to completely take over the whole country. So it's okay, congratulations, you've defeated Iran, and not even that they're going to do that, but let's say you get everything that you think you're going to get outside of the country domestically. You've lost everything domestically. Those are going to be the consequences. Do you I try to get people to recognize that that what's going to happen is the entire coalition politically or whatever is completely busted that they built over 10 years. And the betrayal is going to lead to large scale leftist control of the country.
Right.
It'll break down to domestic conflict.
Yeah.
I try to explain this to people, and I think I freak them out a little bit because I think they, like, everything they say, I'm like, okay, but what about this? And they just don't have a response. And that's the thing I would just point back towards people that, like, bring that up, is just bring up the domestic stuff. Like, okay, but none of the domestic stuff is happening. That's what he was elected on, and he won't be able to carry any of it out because he used all his political will to do foreign entanglement nonsense that he ran against for a decade. And then people don't have a response. They don't have a good response to any of that. They just say, no, I think this is all about the petrodollar, which doesn't even exist. It's a eurodollar system. It's stupid. And but they don't know that. They don't even know what the petrodollar is. And then they'll say, like, they just have, like, no response to that. But I try to point that out to people I'm not even trying to be mean. I'm trying to, like, do it gently because I kind of like the people I talk to about it. Like,
Shit, I'm trying to be mean, dude. I'm over trying to be
oh,
mean.
you're trying to be mean? No, I know.
I'm just joking because people say that, but
that false reputation. But and
you have a false reputation. Your mom has a false reputation. See, I'm being mean now.
my mom is kind of mean, though. That's true. But the people that make these arguments for the foreign stuff, they're just stupid. Like, none of that stuff matters to the people that elected Trump, and none of that's going to matter in, like, 5 years when whatever president or whoever is in power that's going to be, like, dude, these people don't want regular people to own cars.
Yeah.
It's like,
yeah. Well, I appreciate that. That's a great point, Owen. But look, what this tells us is that Big Mike is who we should have gone with. They should have put Big Mike in, and we wouldn't have none of these problems because she has the strength of 1,000 horses to deal with these issues. Shahid's strength could have dealt with these issues. By the way, I forgot, Alex Soren also had Michael Garten on, who wrote a recent book on iconography in the first 3 centuries. So here is that live stream with Alex and Michael Garten. I used to interact with Michael back in the day on Facebook a long time ago before I was Orthodox. So there is their long stream refuting the idea, because Michael has a book on iconography again in the first few centuries. So here is Cleve and Michael glitching out, and there is their long refutation. Here is my short 20-minute refutation again. Cleve, what's up, dog? I was going to go to this Trump post. That's what I was doing. Cleve, are you there?
On
Oh,
the Eucharist as a sacrifice.
Go ahead.
Oh, I was gonna say, yeah, I DM'd you that Trump post. Basically, he
I'm trying to pull it up here.
Made himself a picture of, like, himself as Jesus, and then he was attacking Pope Leo, I guess, on X.
Oh my God. Dude, what the hell's going on?
Go check your DMs. I sent it to you.
I'm pulling it up. I'm like, that just sounds insane. Let's see. Let me pull it up here.
It's wild. He's, like, healing a guy in the hospital bed, surrounded by, like, angels and
Okay,
people
this is
praying.
funny because we actually make fun of these boomer memes all the time where Trump is like Jesus, and then Trump actually has tweeted the boomer Trump meme. This is crazy. RT says Trump posted he is Jesus with warplanes healing another boomer in the hospital. And then it says Trump turns on terrible Pope. Well, I agree that the popes are terrible popes, but not for the reasons that that Donald says here.
Right.
He says, go ahead.
Oh, sorry.
No, you go.
I was gonna say it seems like he got upset at Leo because Leo recently came out and he made a statement against the Iran war,
Right.
So he's pushing back on that. Not all the other stuff. It's kind of like a smoke and mirrors distraction.
Exactly. Yeah, and again, like, it's not going to be for the right reasons, right? Like, that to me, that's funny if he trolls the Pope, but not over an issue where Leo happens to be correct. I like his brother much better. He was MAGA. Wants Iran to have nuclear weapons. I mean, This is just retarded, dude. It's retarded on so many levels too, right? Because remember when I put that post up the other day about that Leo's actually contradicting the entire history of the papacy by saying that there's no such thing as just war. God doesn't hear those who wage war. And it's like, your church has a theory of just war, dude. What are you talking about? The papal states has gone to war many, many times. The popes called crusades, dude. What are you talking about? And then the Roman Catholics are like, why are you supporting Israel? Are you that stupid? I've done like 40 podcasts against the war in Iran. What are you talking about? But I mean, we're talking about people who like, everyone's a Muslim now. Everyone has become a Muslim. They're all Muslims. They cannot think in like second order reasoning. Like if you, they can't do the breakfast question, right? How would you feel if you hadn't had breakfast? You saying that I don't get no breakfast? You say I don't get to eat breakfast? AI says for $5, I paid my dues. I'm squared away. And I'm on the level. Hands up to Zoltan. Zoltan Istvan? What are you talking about? Another dumb meme bro, $50. It was good to see you visiting the Rocor bros. Christ is risen. Hey, yeah. Glad to see you as well. I did have to skip out early. I know you guys thought I was being rude, but I had to drive back 3 hours. And so I slipped out after the Pascha service because I had to drive 3 hours. And if I stayed and talked to all you guys, I would have been there until 10 in the morning. So I couldn't stay and talk. I'm sure I'll see you guys in the future, though. I wanted to say that you helped guide me to Orthodoxy. I found you through the book reviews. Book reviews? What book review? I found Orthodoxy second. Oh, you mean books that I covered on my channel. Interesting. Thank you, man. Thank you. Appreciate that. Yeah, people come to Orthodoxy through all kinds of different means, so that's good. Processional age, $2. You should do a video with Rob Noer. Yeah, I'm down to chat with Rob. It would be an interesting dynamic between your worldviews. Many would find it entertaining. Yeah, I think we mentioned that a long time ago, and I didn't know who Rob was. But yeah, he seems like a good guy. Thomas, $20. Big dog. I just checked in on your stream. Did you already pull up Trump and the Pope beefing? Yeah, we just covered it right now. Trump mentions that Leo is only there because of him. Well, interesting if that's, I mean, Trump's probably being, exaggerating, but this is also interesting given that what we covered there about a couple days ago. Remember where Cardinal Christoph was invited to the Pentagon in January, and they had this kerfluffle intimidation argument supposedly about Iran, and that the papacy needs to back down because supposedly the Pentagon is running shit, and they reference the Avignon papacy. It's like, this is so bizarre, right? I mean, are they using my arguments? I'm joking, but are they like using my arguments against Rome to like argue against Leo? This is getting crazy, dude. By the way, we are live streaming on multiple outlets now, so hopefully this continues to work well. You can find me also on Grumble. You can find me on X as well. Thank you guys for these generous super chats. All right, let's get to the rest of Redeemed Zoomer's bad argumentation here. Protestant culture, I'm going to skip over that because we just covered that. Why that's a bad argument. Predestination,
form of Christianity.
This is not an argument for your position if you understand Christology, because this means that Christ is a predestined man, and it messes up the Trinitarian Christological theology that the fifth and sixth councils lay down. And so predestination ends up essentially meaning that the Son of God becomes destined in time and space. Well, how does a person of the Trinity become predestined, right? So you end up with a Nestorian Christology. I made this argument countless times. And I think the predestinarian argument against Christology is probably one of the strongest other overlooked arguments beyond PSA and the damning of the Son, right? The only problem with that argument is that it's very complex, and it gets into the Christology that the Calvinists have no idea about. So when you start trying to say that you have to have a property of will and energy to have a human nature, and if Christ has our human nature, then he has a properly free human will and energy, well, then predestination and monergism is not true. Now we have a subjective argument about the fruits, and he's arguing that orthodoxy does not produce holier people. Okay, this is, I mean, I'm not, that's not even a serious argument. And then Orientals exist, so orthodoxy is not true because there's disagreement. So by that line of argument, if Protestantism has 1,000 sects or 30,000 sects disagreeing, Protestantism isn't true. I mean, this is so stupid, dude. Because there's schisms, how do you know which one's true? Again, this is a irrelevant line of argumentation in terms of what's true. That's like saying, if people disagree that 2 + 2 = 4, then you don't know that 2 + 2 is 4. This is a fallacy. It's a stupid line of argument. This guy's just... Holiness is having family and kids. It's and Orthodoxy thinks it's being on a monk on a mountain. Well, does he not realize that within the New Testament, Paul talks about the gift of celibacy and that it's a gift, and that Mary and Jesus were celibate, and that John the Baptist was an ascetic, and that Elijah was an ascetic? So it's like he doesn't even know the biblical tradition is full of asceticism. And what's the 10th argument? I don't see the 10th argument. It goes from 9. So I don't know if you wanted a longer refutation, but that was all just really dumb. None of it was theological argumentation, hardly. It's like moral, cultural. The West is the best, right? It's like Jim Morrison level argumentation. The West is the best. We got Redeem Zoom right here, literally citing Jim Morrison as like his line of argument.